ELL students, CLD students. And yeah, so, and my background is literacy, so that fits very well, and both, again, like the online thing and the in-person thing. Much more interactive, obviously, when you're in person. We do a lot of, I mean, I think either way, I do small group discussions, because I don't, even if I have 25 students, there's no point in having 25 people talk. And a discussion board, so there's always smaller groups, and then, you know, they poster, they do whatever, they do demonstrations, share out, discuss videos, all of that. So.
And what level are your students? Are they undergraduate, masters?
Most are graduate students.
Okay.
Many are practicing teachers. The only ones that were not, and it was kind of a mix. So the elementary course was obviously nobody. They're all pre-service teachers. Some people have been teaching for a long time in a different capacity, like preschool, but they don't have their elementary certifications. And then some, I think I had about 12 that were undergraduate double enrolled. They were rolling into the program.
Okay, is that like
the graduate program? Yeah.
So it's almost like a continual program.
Yeah.
Okay.
It's like a 5th year, whatever they call that.
Sometimes it's like an accelerated master's.
Yeah,
right?
Something like that. And then for a few of the TCL-DL students across both courses, mainly online. So the one I meet with in person right now, they're all practicing teachers. So varying from 3 years to 25 years of experience teaching in classrooms. And they're getting their masters and DLL certifications. And then in the other online classes, we had people who had really never taught before or had taught in very informal ways. But I think my understanding is that, well, I don't quite know. Well, one person, for the most part, it seems like they all have their undergraduate degrees. One person said she had started a program somewhere else, but I can't remember if it was she started a graduate level teacher ed program, or like that's what I suspect, and then she didn't finish it.
Sure.
So there's kind of like, yeah,
okay.
I think undergraduate plus.
Yeah. And then the courses you teach, how do they fit into the overall program? Are they core classes? Are they electives?
Yeah, all core classes.
Okay.
Yeah.
Sure. And then how much autonomy do you have over them?
I think I mean, the only thing that I am not allowed to change is the grading system and whatever the performance-based assessment is, because the program gets evaluated on that. And that can be anywhere from like 30% of their grade. So, I mean, there is flexibility. I think there are some things when I did do something different, which was I switched up one of the assignments from something that was like individual to some more of a group-based assignment, and they needed to buy an extra book that was not originally on the syllabus as I was given it. So I just checked with the coordinator and was like, this is what I want to do.
Sure.
And unfortunately, they can't order it from the bookstore because it's like 5. So, I mean, I guess I could, but then people would be just like ordering the book. So I was just like, they're just going to order it after we start the course, because I assign them. They choose what book they want to read as a book club, and then I assign them the book, right? It's not that hard to go to Amazon and buy a book, you know, and it's probably cheaper. So she had some questions around that, but didn't say, no, you can't do it, and it's actually worked out pretty well. So I think there is pretty much some flexibility. I don't bother to change the textbooks unless there's something horrendous with them. We might as well keep them. I think the only time I didn't have a lot of autonomy was when I literally was given a class a week before it started, so I barely had a chance to like understand the flow.
Right.
And I think once I understand the flow, it's a lot easier for me to then adapt what it is I need to teach the course. But yeah.
And then how's your relationship with your coordinator? How's your oversight? Do you have, is it communication on a need to communicate basis? Is it more regular than that?
At this point, it's on a need to communicate basis because she's both a grad student, and that's her job that she got tacked on because somebody left. So it was very difficult to communicate with her. Like email is good, but then it gets pushed down to end. So I mean, I think we have a really good relationship because, and unfortunately, I have to be honest. Like if I am on campus and had questions, I will literally just show up at her office because there was no other way to really catch her.
Sure.
Yeah.
In the pre-survey, you mentioned your previous experiences teaching, your experiences as being multilingual, and how that's kind of influenced your design decisions and the way you run the class. If you could expand on that a little bit.
Well, I mean, I think a lot of that is like I don't do lecture very much unless I have to. It's very interaction based. People talk in small groups. I don't force everyone to share. The idea is that you're sharing in the small groups. You're creating a poster, or somebody will share out for you. So, I mean, that being part of just what I study,
Okay.
and like care about, and so I think that's kind of where that emphasis is, in terms of people should bring what it is they have and whatever capacities they have to learn the content, and then I work with that. I mean, for me, I guess part of that also is like I do have people who are teaching in international contexts and international settings, and people who are not necessarily native English speakers.
Okay.
And so like I've also learned about interesting patterns in like if they were educated in Europe, or like sometimes like a British system, like they'll actually, instead of saying learned, they'll write learnt with a T. I was like, okay, I'm going to Google this to make sure that it is grammatically correct in some form of English. And then I'm like, okay, like, I'm letting this go because I recognize what this is for, So in terms of that, like, it's helping me to kind of get to know other variations of English also. And so,
Sure.
Just kind of being cognizant of that. And I try not to focus, especially in grading, I don't focus a lot on, if it's like, if it is very difficult to understand because there are rampant grammar or spelling issues, then points come off. And I always am very clear with how I designate that in a rubric. They don't just randomly come off. But yeah, for the most part, like I'm sort of cognizant of what that looks like, and as long as it does not get in the way of impede in other people's understanding of what they're trying to express.
Sure. Yeah. And then before you were an adjunct, you worked as a K-12 teacher?
Yeah, many years before that, because I went after I did K-12, really 8th grade, 9th grade teacher.
Okay.
Here for 2 years, I went to grad school about a year after that, and then worked in teacher ed programs and ELL certification programs in Seattle.
Okay.
So,
how do you feel your experiences teaching 8th, 9th grade, teaching at that level, influence the way you teach now as an adjunct?
I mean, that's why I left K-12 teaching. Is I was working with some kids who were ELL students who, like, I had not been taught how to differentiate for them, did not understand what good practices were for that. Like, I tried my best, I just kind of winged it, and so that's why I went back to school. I mean, there's a lot now that I was like, oh yeah, I could see I just adopted certain things from what I had learned from the mentor teachers I had at the time, that at this point I would be like, oh, it's terrible practice. Like, I would not just have whole group discussion. It just doesn't work unless there's people are literally sharing what it is that they are, what it is that they've already talked about. So a lot more small group interactions, time to collaborate, time to like listen and bounce ideas off each other, time to rehearse, as it were. And I feel bad for those poor kids. I was like, can you just translate everything for so and so? Yeah, we don't do that. So not that I didn't make an effort, but I just did not have the tools.